welcome to Independent School Show, and this is the first time that we've done a talk for agents on one of the main stages. For years and years, Neil and I've quite often done it. We've done a sort of double act of like a sort of welcome talk for agents in all sorts of kind of off-stage venues, but increasing numbers of agents are coming to our shows, and we decided that it would be helpful to get you all together and to talk a little bit about how schools work with agents. And what we thought we'd do is focus today on what works well for schools with their relationships with agents and what doesn't work so well, and then we'll throw it open to a bit of Q&A afterwards. I'm going to introduce the panel in a second, but I thought maybe first of all we should do some introductions in a kind of mass market way. So could you put your hand up first of all if you are an agent? I think that's more or less the whole room. If you place 1 to 5 children a year in a UK school, put your hand up. Yep. If you place 5 to 10, put your hand up. Yep. 10 to 20. 20 to 50. Yep. Over 50. No. Okay, great. So that gives a sense of the kind of scale. And let's get parts of the world. Who places children from Europe? 1. Who places children from Africa? None. Who places children from the Middle East? A few. From Asia? The majority. North, South America? None. Okay, that gives us a fairly good perspective. Right, let's start with schools then. I'm going to introduce each of our panelists and then ask them in turn to tell us how many agents their school works with, roughly. So first of all, we've got Neil Herrington, who's Head of International Student Recruitment at Cognita Europe.
Thanks, Guy. We work with a lot of agents. I'll put it at that. Certainly more than 10 or 20, quite a lot. In some market, it varies by market, but certainly in large markets like China and Hong Kong, we have quite a few. In smaller markets, say like South Korea, far fewer. If you think about, I've come from the university sector, so if you think about there you're counting demand in tens of thousands of students. Cognita is a day schools group. We don't own any boarding schools even. We're purely a day schools group. And so if you look at the numbers of children coming from certain countries in the ISC census, once you get beyond Hong Kong, China, you're down to hundreds really in terms of new students start joining day schools at least. And so very few agents are going to work exclusively with day schools. They're going to work with the universities, boarding schools, and then us as well in the day school sector. And so we need quite often to work with quite a few agents to get the volumes of students that we aspire to recruit.
Great, thanks. Are you Sarah or Sara? Sara. Okay, Sara Acworth, who's Director of Marketing Commissions and Communications at Frensham Heights.
Hello, everybody. So I would say at Frensham Heights, we are on a journey with international that we really want to grow. Hopefully you've seen us on the stand just there, the bright, colourful one. You can't miss us, to the point that many people have come up to us today and said, are you even a school? We are a school. We're a 3 to 18 co-ed day and boarding school. And we do have international students. So I would say we've got about 18 different nationalities in the school. And I guess agents, I don't know, I couldn't tell you exactly, but it's 20 upwards, but not tons. We'd like to grow that a lot more. And I think we'll talk about the way in which we'd like to work with agents, but come and have a chat to us.
Great. Irfan Latif, who's Headmaster of the Royal Hospital School.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here. We're based in Suffolk, which is only about an hour away from here, down to Liverpool Street. And so I got here this morning very, very easily. We're a boarding school, 11 to 18. We work with about 25 odd agents from around the world. Our day and boarding, sort of day kids and our boarding kids, the rough split is between sort of 80% of our kids are from the UK, 20% from international, and we have about 350 odd boarders, of which many come from about 50 different nationalities, which makes a really good diverse mix in terms of what we can offer as a school.
And Joe Birchall, head teacher of King's Magna Middle School at Queen Ethelburga's. And you guys are the agent experts, I think. So how many do you reckon you work with?
There's a bit of pressure there, isn't there? Good afternoon. I think we're possibly at the moment got around about 80, 90 active agent agreements. We're quite established internationally. We've got a big network of staff that work on behalf of the school that are based in country around the world. But yeah, around about 80, 90 agents. And we've got over 400 international students at the school. I think 427 is the number right now.
Thank you very much. So just to sum up then, you've got a really good range here of different kinds of organisations, from Joe at the end, who deals with an enormous number of agents, Cognita, who work with quite a lot, and then two schools that work with fewer and are individuals, smaller schools. And so what they have to say about how they deal with agents and what they find works and what they find doesn't work is going to be different and will be quite useful. Just in the same way that you all have different size businesses, they have different types of experience about dealing with agents. So, okay, let's start with I'm not going to throw every question at everybody, but jump in if you'd like to answer it. Do your agents, on the whole, expect to have exclusive rights to their regions? No. Okay, no one expects to have exclusive rights.
I get asked now and then, but...
but you don't say yes?
No.
Okay, so don't go looking to have an exclusive. On average, what kind of size firms do you reckon that the agents are that you work with?
So we've got some agents that are, we work with some of the very largest agents who are mostly sending students, I would say, to our London prep schools and senior schools. And then I think what's interesting is that, the Home Office are talking a lot at the moment about the role of agents when sponsoring visas and having to write the names of the agents on CASs and things like that, but they haven't yet really defined what an agent is. I think that's always, an interesting question in terms of, is an agent someone who receives commission from the school? Is it someone who the family pay for the service, or is it someone who gets paid at both ends? And so there's so many different types of business models, if you like. And so, I think that's worth thinking about in terms of that question too.
I mean, all I would say to that is I'm not too worried about the size of the agent, really. We're as a school, we're very much about dealing with the person on the end of the line. So I wouldn't have a lot to say on that.
We work with a number of agents, and whether they're, as Sara said, whether they're boutique agents or whether they're large agents, I think at the end of the day, you're looking at quality. And you're looking at developing that relationship with the agents. I've just been on as some of the staff have said, a world tour, having gone to Hong Kong, China, going over to Africa, going over to Europe, and meeting agents. I started at school in September, so it was an opportunity for me to go and meet with agents and develop that relationship. And developing that relationship with agents, what we don't want is sort of short-term gain. We're in for the long haul and developing that relationship, much like QE are doing with their agents. And it's really important that we start to develop an understanding about what our school is offering, keep you updated on what is happening at the school through termly and weekly newsletters, and when you're over in country, to come and see the new things that we're doing. So that all-important relationship, regardless of size, is key for us.
Yeah, I just mirror that again. It's perfectly put. It's all about the relationship, knowing each other, the pluses, the negatives, what each school can offer, and again the same on an agent basis, what the agent can offer. So I'd mirror everything that Irfan's just said there.
Okay, so size doesn't matter, which is a great message, because we've got people with all different sizes of business here, and I think people often feel like if they're not very well established or got a huge client base, that maybe it's, that they can't talk to certain schools. But you've got 4 schools here saying actually that's not necessarily true, but quality does matter. So that's what we're going to dig into now, which is what makes an agent good from a school's point of view. So perhaps we'll start with Joe.
I think I'd just start by saying it's finding the right student, for our environment. When students are going to aim to place the student that's going to suit our environment, then we're already on to a winning footing, aren't we? If they're trying to place a student that's not going to fit or suit, and you're just chasing the placement as opposed to finding the right fit, then we're going to be on a backward foot. So yeah, the right student for our school is key.
Yeah, very much so. It's not a case of bums on seats. It's a case of the right quality for that student or pupil to thrive within our ethos, within our values. And so it's really important that we get the right student in through the door so that they understand, the parents understand. It's a relationship that extends beyond the agent. And so it's key that that particular student, that you as an agent, having done all your homework and research on the various schools, pick the right school for your family. Because you're going to have to deal with that family for the next 3, 5, 7 years. And so it's really important you get the fit absolutely right.
I think for us, because we are a little bit different, we're a school without a uniform, we're first name terms, we've got a more sort of progressive liberal approach to education, is that we always encourage agents to come and see us, because it's very hard to always get that message across. People can misinterpret what that means. So seeing us in person is brilliant. But I would also say it's about representing and making sure that the families understand who we are as a school and that ethos fits the child, but also being open-minded about looking at other schools rather than maybe the ones that you've got used to looking at, maybe having a look at some different schools, maybe like a Frensham Heights or some other schools. Sometimes they can actually provide something different, which is, the message that we're keen to encourage.
I think the one thing I'd add is we're always looking for agents where we can support your in-country activity, where there's some joint activity that we can get involved in. So one of the big agents that we work with in Hong Kong, we've got a member of my team who's based in the Cognita office in Hong Kong who's able to support those events herself, but I will always go out to those events because I know them to be really good. I will often take the head teacher of Brighton College Prep Kensington, one of the Cognita schools in London. She'll go out, she'll assess people, she'll meet children in person and be able to assess and interview. And then that relationship really, really develops then. So we get more involved in some of the digital marketing activity that agency runs in Hong Kong. They've then gone on to open a Shanghai office, which is quite a new venture for them. We know it's going to take a few years to establish, but because the relationship is strong, we're happy to support that Shanghai event in the first couple of years when we're not really expecting to get that many students out of the activity, because that relationship's already very strong. And we've got to a point now where the guy that runs the agency is sending his nieces and nephews to Cognita schools in the UK as well. So that's kind of like the ideal relationship, if you like, to get to that level of trust where you support one another beyond just the placement of students.
So let's start with Irfan this time. When you're meeting new agents, what factors qualify them as good potential partners? What do people need to come with?
I think they need to come with a good understanding of the school and, of course, the market. And, of course, they need to come in with what they want from a school and what we can offer as well. It's got, as we've all said here on the panel, it is about developing that partnership. It's also, of course, we have to talk about the financials. We need to look at the financials and make sure that it works for you and that it works for us as well. But it is at the end of the day, it is about that relationship. It's not a quick, I want 3 students and then that's it. I'll never see you again. We don't want agents flipping. And we've heard stories about that, where they come in for a few years and then they flip and then they go somewhere else. We don't want to work with those sort of agents. And I'm sure, you're not like that. And so it is about you doing your due diligence, us doing our due diligence, and making sure that we develop that partnership and that relationship going forward, because we want to be open and transparent with you, and I hope you're going to be open and transparent with us.
So, do you want to have anything to add to that? What about things that can go wrong when you first meet agents, like what disaster stories of people who've walked through and you thought we can't possibly work with them?
I just pick up on what Irfan said there. It's about being transparent. So when agents don't quite give the full picture of their business, but also maybe the situation with the student as to where they're acquiring that student from. So yeah, it's very key that we get the full picture initially, then we can try and manage it and obviously put the right support in place. But yeah, not getting the full picture can put you in some sticky situations.
I think there's a thing that people often feel that they need to front, and I mean, one of the things that I do, when you register for your agent's ticket, I ask people to give references, and I don't actually mind how many references people have or don't have, but you can really tell if a reference is genuine or not, and it's remarkable how many people register for tickets for this show with references that are obviously not right. We know the industry really well. We know all the people in it, and it's really important, I think, to be straightforward.
Yeah. We always ask for, when we're appointing a new agent, we always ask for 2 references, ideally from 2 other independent schools in the UK. But it is a small world. And, just as you guys probably talk amongst yourselves about developments in the school sector, schools that you like working with, schools that maybe you find a bit tricky to work with, similarly, we will talk to one another as well, because we're not all competitors, really. We're in quite different geographical locations. We run quite different types of schools, and so we're very happy to kind of share recommendations of agents and also other feedback as well, to help one another out.
A couple of things I would just add to that. It's timing. So quite often we can get international students quite late on at the moment, and that's fine. It can be worked with, but I think it's an understanding that can be quite tricky sometimes to manoeuvre that very quickly. The other thing I was going to say that I find really helpful is an understanding of the markets that you come from and the sort of pressures that you're under. So, whatever latest updates there are in your different markets is really useful to share with the schools that you're talking to, because then we understand the pressures you're under as well.
Once a relationship's established with an agent, what can go wrong there? We've talked about flipping. I mean, perhaps someone could define flipping a bit more. But is that the main thing that goes wrong, or are there other things as well?
I would say sometimes a lack of transparency around the number of schools that are being looked at. So suddenly finding you've put in a lot of work as a school into entertaining the agent and potentially the family and going through interviews and doing all of that work, and then actually finding your number 6 in a list of 7 or something, that can be quite off-putting, to be honest.
One other thing normally crops up once a year, I would say, without fail, is where more than one agent puts in a claim for the same student.
Right.
I mean, to some extent, that's the family talking to 2 different agents and not possibly being clear with the agents, but it always happens. I would like to say it's getting slightly better, but I probably still get 1 case of that a year, and then you've got like some sort of tripartite negotiation to go through to make sure that everyone feels that they haven't been hard done by and gets an equal share of the effort that's gone into enrolling that student at your school.
Yeah, and I'd just add on that, we sometimes get students that repeatedly defer their start date, and you're left in the dark, and agents don't really give you the clarity or the real reason as to why, and ultimately it might end up in a withdrawal, but you've planned for that student, you've allocated teaching hours, the boarding space, and then it's the defer, and then gone. So rather be transparent up front initially, therefore we're in a better situation.
So do you expect, once the placement's happened, do you expect agents to carry on working alongside families all the way through and supporting those families, or is it a kind of deal done out?
I mean, from our point of view, the best relationships, and we are all about relationships at Frensham Heights, is the one where we keep in contact with the agent. And actually, to the extent that we started to try and give back some student testimonials to agents so that you can use those, whether it's on your website or with the families. So you kind of keep that to and fro going all the time.
It's about keeping that dialogue open. It's about working with the agent. Obviously, the following year, we hope to get more students of that caliber and that quality. And so it's making sure that you're kept up to date on what's happening with the student. We'll send you reports as well, as long as with the parents, so that you know exactly what's happening with your students and the care that we're providing for your families.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think the more support, the more involved you are, the better for everybody. Also, you can help chase fees as well when fees are a little bit late as well. Your help there is always appreciated.
I think the only thing I'd add then is translation services sometimes. You know, if we've brought a student in on a child student visa to a prep school, the parent has come on the parent of a child student visa, there's important information that we need to convey to the parent, and their English isn't good enough to always understand what's being said. You can use Google Translate and things like that, but quite often we might need the agent to step in and help with those ongoing communications with the parents.
Guy, it'd be really interesting to know from the room how much the agents want to stay in the process, actually, and for how long.
Yeah, well, let's ask that question. So who expects to stay involved with a family after they've placed a child?
Let's have some more hands up. Come on.
Yeah, worry about. So that's definitely something that other people need to be thinking about, I think, as something that you could be doing with schools and would be of benefit. Are there moments where you expect agents to step aside? I mean, can they get in the way of conversations with parents?
I'd just start by saying sometimes if there's a behaviour issue, and they can come wading in and try and double up on the communication that we're giving to parents and we're getting back from parents, so they can muddy the water there if there's a behaviour discipline issue.
Okay, and so final one, probably the most interesting topic of all. Do you see any trends in commission rates?
No.
I can only see commission rates going up.
It's a tricky one because you don't want to be talking, price fixing and things like that. You've got to be relatively careful about how you share the information about what you're doing, where you're pegging your commission rates. But it is an ongoing conversation. And I met an agent earlier on today for the first time in the cafe, and they raised it pretty early on, what they thought was a healthy commission rate, which was unsurprisingly higher than what I tend to offer. But I think commission is always about what can you offer. If you're one of the agents who put your hands up earlier on, who recruiting 20 plus students into the UK every year, then there's a conversation to be had about commission. If you're bringing one or two in, then probably not, to be brutally honest. It is about finding that sweet spot between what we as schools are looking for and what you as agents can offer, really. Okay, so we've got sort of 10 minutes for questions if people have any questions they'd like to ask. We need to borrow a mic, don't we? We'd really like to ask a question. Yeah, great, thank you.
Hi everyone. I'm Yana. So I actually focus on U.S. boarding school placement. But given the current U.S. state, a lot of families are exploring the UK, Canada, Switzerland, and other places. I'm just curious because actually the U.S. boarding schools that I previously worked with, they don't have commission-based agents. We're more consultants, so we help families and we do get paid by the families, not the schools. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, what are things that you would expect from a consultant slash agent during the conversation? Because previously when working with the U.S. boarding schools, I would send them different student profiles that we create for the students, including our comments, working with the family, with the students, the strengths and weaknesses of each student. I don't know if that's something that's actually common in the conversation with UK boarding schools. So I would love to hear what are other materials that you might be interested in having from us.
I mean, that's all really helpful stuff. And yes, to all of the above. But also we would get reference from the school. But those are the essential things, really, in terms of knowing about the child and knowing about... And yes to the US market. You're very welcome.
Why are they moving away from the US market? I know there's probably one big orange elephant in the room, but why? Why is there more of a move away now?
I think definitely there has been a lot of issues with student visas. Families are more kind of afraid of what might happen later on. And then this year with the US boarding school placement, there has been a very unusual move when it comes to waitlist. So previously, a lot of the even top 20 US boarding schools, very limited movement when it comes to waitlist. But this year, there has been a lot of open spots. So from my observation, I think it's because there are families who receive the offers, but they end up choosing not to go because of the current issue that's happening in the US. And then for boarding school kids, the students are also a lot younger, so they're not as comfortable sending them there. So they're looking for places that are a lot more stable compared to the US.
That was a good example of a market update, by the way.
I'll be in touch.
Anybody else like to ask a question? It's a really good opportunity to test your thoughts.
Are there any schools, it would be good to know from their point of view what makes a school also easy to approach. Can we ask that?
School, yeah.
Hi. So we place students from kind of all over the world, and we have a lot of London-based families that are looking for boarding or for transition and so on. And we like to get a full picture for the students and then send it to school. But often we find that communication with the school can be very slow, or there can be a lot of delays, and some schools get confused. Are you the parent? Are you the agent? What is going on? And there's so many people that are involved. And it's often very hard to, just as you said, it's at the end of the day, it's someone who is on the end of the line. But often, there are some difficulties. So this, I think, would be super helpful if, you might have, not necessarily a dedicated person, but to have much more clarity and streamlined process within your admissions department to help us. And when you call, you say, I'm calling about this student. It's like, oh, I don't know, I wasn't dealing with them, or it's holidays and exams. And I know there's so many challenges in school, but I think this would be really, really helpful.
I mean, that's such a good point, isn't it? I mean, Cognita have Neil, but a lot of schools...
So I was going to say, yeah. So we own and operate about 30 private day schools in the UK. I'm head of international student recruitment for the group, so I've got pretty good insights in terms of what year groups have available spaces in each school, what schools suit particular profiles of students, be that their English language level, the curriculum they're coming from, their age, that kind of thing. So I can then say, well, maybe Brighton College Prep Kensington's full in that year group, but Elaine's Regent's Park has space, or another school, for example, and help you navigate our group of schools, and then also support you through the visa and immigration process centrally rather than the school doing that. So, yeah, different schools have different models, but I can certainly give pretty clear information to agents. If I'm at my desk within an hour, I would say, yeah.
But obviously, individual schools are in a slightly different place, aren't they? I mean, do you have an agent-specific person? Or?
No, it's me. I have a much smaller team, and so yeah, those are the challenge. If I'm being brutally honest, that is the challenge. But we do try, and we do recognise that it's really important that we are as quick as we can be to get back to you guys, and that also it doesn't stop there. That we do keep talking to you. And that's the bit we're really working on, actually, is to improve that, because that's coming out loud and clear from every area that we work, whether it's alumni, whether it's agents, whether it's whatever. It's all about contact and But yes, thank you for raising it, because I'm sure it happens.
Yeah, we try and endeavour to get back to you as soon as possible. We don't say, we'll expect a response in 28 days. We look around and turning around 24 hours. We have someone who looks after, we have Emily who looks after our international admissions. We have Amelia who looks after our domestic. And they will work with the various house-masters and house-mistresses to ensure they get the information in a timely manner to then pass it on to you. And hopefully we could do that within 24, 48 hours.
And the Queen Ethelburga have...
Yeah, I was going to say, similar to that, we have some staff based at school who run the application, but then we have the team based in country that will sort of head it up, and they'll do all the liaising, the connecting, and then pass it back to school. So we're going a slightly different approach. We're fortunate to have the staff in country who can assist face to face, and they'll run the application and then liaise with the team back at school.
So it is, like everything to do with independent schools, going to be incredibly different from organisation to organisation, from school to school. I mean, as you all got the map when you came in here today, there are some schools who actively don't want to speak to agents, not just here but ever, and there aren't many of those now, but they do exist, and you can get quite frosty responses from some schools. But most schools are delighted to talk to agents. Any more questions? Yeah. Yeah.
Mike, sorry, thank you. Just one other question in terms of how we continue to engage one another, I suppose. So I send out an agent newsletter every month, which is just 3 stories. Normally, something about that, something interesting that I hope you find it interesting, that's happening in one of our schools, a spotlight on another school, and maybe something relating to immigration and visa changes, that kind of thing, so that you're up to date on that. We do agent days in our London schools. We do agent webinars for particular schools that are outside of London, or where there are big changes taking place, like the launch of Elaine's Regent's Park and Hampstead. But are there any other things that you would welcome from us as schools in terms of collateral, materials, intelligence, information, to help you do your jobs more efficiently and to help recruit to our schools?
Sounds like you're doing it all. I'm just going to copy you.
The one, I think we'll wrap it up now. But one thing to flag up as well is that in the autumn we're planning to have an agents afternoon, like when the parents' session finishes at 3:00. We'll have a dedicated session for agents for a couple of hours probably. We're still working that out, but keep an eye on your. You'll all get mail from me about it. But the idea there is to really make sure that it's a very focused, brilliant encounter for you at the school show, without having to step away when parents approach the school and that sort of thing. So thank you all very much for coming, and do make use of the last hour of the show to talk to lots of schools.